My mom sent me to a psych ward to get revenge on me for moving out. My mom is bipolar and also has narcissistic personality disorder, so growing up she was extremely controlling of me, saw me as an extension of herself basically. She didn't like it when I went away to college, and had cut all ties with her. I was naive and finally told her that since I was self-funding my education and was an adult, there was nothing she could do to control me anymore. Boy was I wrong. Hours after I asserted my independence, police knocked on my door. They politely informed me that my very concerned mother had requested a wellness check, reported that I was at risk of harming myself, and that they were required to arrest me. I was cuffed and put into a cop car right then and there, and they took me into the local emergency room for evaluation. This emergency room had a separate psychiatric section, and I was locked into a padded room with literally nothing. No phone, no bed, just an empty white padded room. I was left alone there for 13 full hours with no food and no one came to check on me. I'd had to use the bathroom and eventually couldn't hold it anymore. I was about to leave for work right when the cops came, and wasn't able to call in, so I was worried about what was happening with my job. I was extremely stressed out by the time the doctor came to assess me. She didn't ask what was going on, only said that they were going to admit me and asked if I'd go voluntarily or involuntarily. Explained that voluntarily meant 3 days. I started to try to explain what happened. She said that she'd hold me involuntarily then, and just left. A nurse did eventually bring me food, water, and a gown, but it was another several hours stuck in that room alone. Eventually they transferred me to an inpatient center. They loaded me up in a transport ambulance strapped to the bed and off we went on a 5-hour drive to that facility. The ambulance guys were the first ones that actually listened to me after the whole mess started. They released my hands and even let me smoke cigarettes in the back with them. The nurses during intake at the inpatient place were so kind. They listened to my story of what happened, seemed to believe me, and allowed me to make just one phone call with their cell phone, otherwise I wasn't allowed to call anyone. I called my aunt to tell her what happened and begged for help. Seconds later, I encountered my first other patient who jumped on me, knocked me to the ground, and shoved his hand down my pants. The nurses and staff were incredibly nice. They gave me a lot of advice. They actually suggested I pretend to be anorexic, which wasn't hard since I was extremely skinny and their food was awful, so that I could have some disorder to treat and show progress on. Unfortunately for me, the head doctor was on vacation so I wasn't seen or evaluated. I spent 2 weeks there. My family, minus my mom, called and visited every day, driving 5 hours each way. They explained what happened, what my mom was like, but since the attending doctor was on vacation I wasn't allowed to be released. Eventually, my family hired lawyers and threatened to sue the place, and I was finally let go. It was the most terrifying and frustrating experience I've ever had. It still haunts me to this day. It made me realize my freedom is just an illusion, and at any moment I can be locked up and held against my will with no rights or way out. I also didn't have health insurance at the time, so the bill was insane. Took me 15 years to pay off and just finished a couple of years ago.